morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for practice today. For the scope of our practice today, we're going to be doing kind of a combined asana practice, specific a yin and yang practice. So when we think of yin and yang, traditionally yang we associate with kind of heat building exercises, much more strength focused, physically more exerting exercises traditionally. Whereas yin is completely on the other side of the coin. These are going to be cooling postures, tend to be more passive, more gentle, much more introspective. So the first component of our practice, we're going to stay on the yang side. We're going to really be generating some heat with traditional yoga asanas. But as we start to move into the yin side of the practice, we're going to be heavily modifying poses so that we can maintain them for extended periods of time. So a lot of props today. I would definitely advise that you have at least 2 very thick pillows. Whether these be decorative pillows that you have on the couch, usually they tend to be a bit thicker, a bit more sturdy. But certainly if you have some really well stuffed down pillows, these will fit the bill. If you only have some thin pillows around the house, then just grab as many as you can. Now additional to this, at least 1 bath towel, but if you're kind of sparse on pillows, then just grab as many bath towels as you can, because we can stack those up to give us some extra cushioning. Additional to this, your 2 yoga blocks, and of course if you don't have any yoga blocks, just go ahead and grab a couple stacks of books. And then finally, a strap or a necktie, anything that'll help you to get to your feet a little bit faster. So, once you've gone ahead and collected all those props, we will take some time to get ourselves set in our equal standing posture. Take this as All right, so as we start an equal standing pose, we'll give ourselves a few additional breaths, taking our time here so as to give everyone else just appropriate time to collect all their props. So as always, we want to set our feet so that they are in a parallel position. If your toes are turning outwardly, this is going to tend to focus a bit more on your inner quadriceps. If you have a habit of kind of pigeon-toeing your feet in, then we start to isolate the outer quadriceps more. And that's why that parallel position is so important. It's going to allow us to more evenly activate the muscles of the legs as we create that gentle but persistent energetic lifting. So from the ankles, draw the shins up to your knees. Knees rising gently into the thighs, thighs into the front of the hips. Now as the fronts of the legs begin to rise, drop down the back so your buttocks and your tailbone lengthens into the earth. Hamstrings anchor to calves, calves rooting to heels. With the arms falling by your sides, draw the shoulder blades together behind you and allow the floating ribs to come in just a little bit, helping us to establish a very neutral spine. So our first round of sun salutations, we're going to be doing a classical lunging sun salutation. So tuning into your breath. Notice how the inhalations naturally rise, getting you taller. The exhalations descending, anchoring you into your base. Inhale, faces relaxed, roof of the mouth open. Last one here in mountain, exhale, plant yourself. Rising with the next inhalation, stretch the arms up nice and high. And as you exhale to fold, bend your knees however much you need to comfortably place your thumbs on the floor. Now once the breath is completely gone, we'll step our right leg back all the way to the rear of the mat in a long lunging stance. Now as much as we're pushing back through the right heel, we want to feel the back of the right leg lifting toward the sky. Give yourself a full breath. Try to expand fully through the tops of the lungs, and then left foot steps back. You can drop down knees, chest, chin through inchworm or straight as a board for chaturanga. Cobra or upward dog, finding that gentle tuck of the tail, downward facing dog. So we'll give ourselves 1 extra breath just in this first cycle. At the end of your exhale here in downward dog, step the right foot forward. Finding that long lunging stance, this time now it's going to be the back of the left leg that's lifting up toward the ceiling as your right hip tries to move toward the earth. With your exhale, step up to the top of the mat and fold forward, head to knees. Ride the inhalation into the sky, lift up high. Equal standing, arms by your sides. So this time, precisely in time with breath. Inhale, lift. Exhalation, folding in, look toward your navel center, neck is soft. Left leg as far back as it'll go. Inhale, fill your hips, fill your heart. Exhale, right foot back, modified flow or traditional, whatever feels right for you. Cobra or upward dog, the toes are reaching away. Downward facing dog is just the exhale. Step your left foot forward. Savor your inhalation here. Try to make as much space as you can through the torso. Right foot steps up as you fold. Keep your toes soft. Inhale all the way up into the sky. Equal standing. That's one cycle. 4 more. Inhalation, lift off. Pull the hips back as you bow. Look past your nose. Right leg. Longest stance you can find. The right heel pushes back, the left knee pushes forward, and then vinyasa. Elbows nice and close. You really savor the quality and texture of your breath. From downward dog, right foot up. Inhale, soften the features of your face. Top of the mat as you stretch your hips into the sky. Urdhva Hastasana, your hands go upwards, equal standing. Eyes on the horizon. Left now. Inhale, rise. Exhale, fold. When the breath is concluded, left leg as far back as it can possibly go. Fill the tops of your lungs. Right foot back. Push through your heels. You're drawing your heart forward. Lift up through the space between your shoulders and then over the toes for the full exhale. Left foot. And the back leg is lifting toward the ceiling. Top of the mat to fold. Soften your toes as you bow in. Rising up, gaze high. Equal standing, tops of the thigh bones back. Inhale, Urdhva Hastasana. Uttanasana, head to knees. Right leg further than before. So now that the hips are warming, the stances should get a little longer. Left leg back, push through those heels if you're lowering straight as a board. In upward dog, the shoulder blades converge against the spine. Rolling over all 10 toes at once. If you can, right foot to step. Fill yourself up fully. Top of the mat to fold. Inhale, sweeping the arms up high. Draw your shoulders down into the hips. Equal standing. Left now. In breath, rise. Uttanasana, long spine. Left leg as far back as it'll go. A full breath from your hips to your heart. Right foot back, elbows super close, grazing the ribs as you lower. When the exhale and downward dog's done, the left foot steps. So now you have the full inhalation. Hips, heart, collarbones, shoulders, top of the mat fold. Rising up, reach your arms high. Equal standing. 2 more cycles. In breath, Urdhva Hastasana. Out breath, Uttanasana. Right leg to the back of the mat as far as it'll go. That stance should be getting pretty long now. Lunge forward fully and then step back to flow. Inner thighs twisting to the heavens. Anchor the tailbone back into your heels. Downward facing dog. Right foot steps. Open the collarbones wide as you can and then to the top of the mat, fold your way down. Lift it up into the sky, gaze high. Samastitihi. Left side. Listening to your breath. When that exhale's done, left leg as far back as it'll go. Push the hamstrings toward the ceiling. Right foot back, flow. Keeping a soft smile on your face. Left leg. Nice long, long stance. Lunge the left knee forward as the right heel reaches back. And then top of the mat to fold, head to legs. Up we go. Samastitihi. One more time, both sides. Inhalation, lift. Exhalation, look in toward your navel center. Right heel to the back of the mat. Lunging with the left knee forward, push the right foot back, vinyasa. Index finger knuckles pushing through the mat to help you open the collarbones in your back bend. Good, stepping right foot forward. Inhale fully, and then savor your exhalation as you melt into your fold. Rise and gaze up. Equal standing. This is the last half of the cycle. Left leg stepping both ways. As far back as it'll possibly go as the left leg steps. Fill yourself up. Right foot back. Arms and legs should work equally in your lowered push-up. Cobra or up dog. Twist those inseams to the heavens. From downward dog, left foot steps the last time. Fill yourself up fully. And then forward folding, head to knees. Rise on up as you sweep into the sky. Exhale, arms back by your sides. So gazing calmly over the horizon. Notice the rhythm of your breathing. Smoothing it out, balancing it out if you need to. And then reintegrating, we'll shift weight to left. Turn your right knee up. Find either your ankle, your calf, or your inner thigh. Be mindful that you are not pushing into the left knee. As the hands come to heart center, pushing your palms a little to bring some space into the armpits and some lift into your chest. Now by keeping your hands at heart center, this will allow tree to be a little more calming, but a little more activating. We can interlace the first 3 fingers and extend the arms into the sky. Regardless of the variation, smile at yourself softly. Conscious of your smooth and equal breathing, go within. As we exhale next, we'll bring our hands into center. With an inhale, slowly turn right knee, and then standing down, transfer the weight, left leg opening up. Ankle, calf, or inner thigh. Hands to heart center, or of course, if you choose, extending the arms up into the sky above. And keep the eyes softly but steadily focused, looking out at a single point to help concentrate the mind and establish greater balance and stability within your pose. Remember, whenever you fall out of postures, it's just how it goes for all of us. So smile, and in your own time, come back. Bringing the hands in first with an exhale. Keep the eyes super still. Inhale, left knee centers, and release. And dropping the arms by your sides, Utkatasana, fierce posture flow. Bending your knees, sit into that imaginary chair as you inhale, your arms above, palms of the hands connected. But if your shoulders are really restrictive, do what we just did in tree. Interlacing the first 3 fingers will give you a little more control over the upper body as we allow the shoulders to open across the upper back. Bring your floating ribs in as you breathe, lifting the torso as high as you possibly can. Now keeping your eyes on the horizon, for your next exhale, arms overhead shift to arms parallel with the earth. Palms facing down, hands open, shoulder width. Inhaling, begin to straighten up. As you straighten the legs, lifting the crown of the head tall, continue to rise until your heels pull away from the earth, pausing on your tippy toes. So steady gaze is super important for balance, but so are your big toe mounds. If you push the big toe mounds into the floor, this will help you to activate the inner thighs. You're welcome to stay upright, lifting the heels as high away from the floor as you're comfortable doing. Or stage 2, bend your knees, revisiting Utkatasana in this tippy toe variation. Now in this modification of the pose, the spine will stay straight. If there was a wall behind you, you'd have your head, your shoulders, and your hips connected with it. Now worry less about dropping your hips, and think a little more about lifting your heels for 3. Remember, it's okay and in fact essential to fall out of postures. Challenge yourself for 2. Keeping those heels lifted well off of the earth as slow as you can with an inhale. Rise back up to straighten legs. Drop your heels, arms by your sides. Circle up overhead and then swan diving forward. Bend the knees in order to get your thumbs on the mat. Release for the hamstrings. Lengthen your spine. Savor the inhalation. Melting in, roll the weight forward. All the way up we go with straight legs. Sweep your arms high, gaze to thumbs. Exhaling, hands to heart center, bend your knees and sit into your hips. So tall with an in-breath. Turning your belly to the right. Stage 1, bringing your elbow outside of the thigh, pressing the palms together and turning through the waist. But if this modification doesn't work well for you, just use your left hand to grab your knee, right hand on the sacrum as the tummy twists. Now, stage 2, you may be able to reach the fingertips of your left hand to the earth and your right arm up into the sky. really liberating the chest. But we're here now for only 3. Let your hips drop a little lower than your heart. For 2, make sure you're breathing into those kidneys. We're going all the way up with an inhale, straighten the legs, sweep the arms overhead. Hands to heart center. Bend your knees, sit. Pause here as you get tall. Right elbow outside of left knee. Modified, hold the left knee with your right hand to the back of the hips as you twist. Stage 2, fingertips to the floor to expand. Eyes are on the ceiling as your tummy turns you. Breath is localized in the spine for 3, 2, and then this time, fall forward, hands to the mat or blocks. Lengthen your spine out with the inhale. Fold in, look toward your navel. Let's do that one more time. Long breath, long spine. Really enjoy it, melt. Bend your knees, sit into the hips, Utkatasana, arms overhead with your inhale. Exhale, push through your feet to straighten up, swimming through the air. Vinyasa to downward dog, following your breath as you go. Continuing this heat generating process, we'll move through our first full standing sequence. Beginning with warrior 1, we'll lift the right leg up into the sky, keeping the hips square, pull away. Exhale, step between your hands, dropping your back heel at about 60 degrees. If you have a hard time connecting the outer left heel, then you just need to shorten your stance modestly. Maybe wiggle the right foot out to the right side slightly. Okay, but be cautious. If you are shortening your stance, as we start to bend into the forward knee, it should never lunge past the heel. So at our deepest extent, we're going to find a nice vertical thigh bone. That's a shin bone. Kidding. Warrior 3 pose. So one more inhale, let's get taller, and then arms by your sides, lean halfway over the right leg and step off into space. So Amber's already gone fully into the posture, so her spine and her leg are parallel with the earth. But to modify this posture, all we need to do is lift the upper body higher than the standing hip. Now, at the greatest depth of this posture, we will only be in line with the hip. Lifting that left leg higher for 3. Feel yourself standing squarely through your right foot, 2. And then step back. Warrior 2, plant your back heel, open your arms out to the sides. But be very mindful of the front knee. So in order for the knee to be protected and stable, you should be able to see your big toe if you glance down. This means that we're turning the right thigh outwards, the right knee toward the pinky toe side of the foot. Now we want to continue that twisting of the thigh movement all the way up into the hip socket. So the thigh turns toward the wall behind you to help you better tuck the tailbone underneath. Sink a little deeper into your lunge, eyes on the middle finger of your right hand. Triangle posture. Push your right leg straight, bring your feet 2 steps together, moving the back foot. Left hip pulling back. Right hip pulls back and right as we grab for the shin, ankle, or block in Trikonasana, triangle posture. Draw your eyes up toward the fingertips of your left hand and let your skull move back toward the wall behind you. Okay, this is one of those poses that's actually very beneficial to practice it against a wall. Working to connect, in this case, your right hip, your shoulders, and your skull with that imaginary surface or that real surface if you have one close enough to you. 2 more breaths, pushing through the feet to remain light through your upper body. And we'll just exhale our hands to the floor, drop the left knee down onto the mat, pointing the toes away. Momentary Anjaneyasana, hands to knee, or inhale, sweep your arms up overhead for a little back bend. Move into your vinyasa, hands down. Left side. Lifting your left leg up, keep your hips square. Exhale, step between your hands. Back heel plants at about 60 degrees. So that means the toes of your right foot are pointing forward slightly. As you stretch the arms up into the sky, turn left hip back and right hip forward. Take your left foot left for 1 second. Squaring the hips, but very thoughtful of your right knee. It should always feel stable and protected in this case. If you feel pressure in that right knee, I'd like you to focus on your hamstrings and your calf muscles on that right leg even more. Pushing through the back of the leg will give us a greater sense of freedom through the front. Warrior three. So we're going to get tall first with an inhale. As we exhale, arms by the sides of our body, lean forward and step off into our one-legged balance. The eyes fixed upon the earth directly beneath you as you smile to yourself. Our practice is always meant to really enhance our sense of humor. Always keeping the corners of the mouth slightly lifted, and a smile radiating through your eyes will only benefit you. Last three. Enjoying that place where things get a little uncomfortable, a little challenging. Warrior two. Step back into your right heel and open your wings. So as you land, heel to heel alignment will make it easier for us to protect the left knee. As it bends forward, the big toe is visible, and then we find that twist of the thigh outwards to help us create that tuck of the tailbone under. And one of the other pieces of the puzzle here is, especially if you tend to back bend quite a bit, you might want to tuck in the top of the tummy a little. Okay, bringing the spine into a straight, a more neutral position. Last exhalation as we sing. Triangle. Left leg straight, back foot comes in 1 to 2 steps. So pull the hips back as you lengthen forward, grab for your block, your shin. And one day you might even grab a hold of the big toe here. Eyes upward gazing as the right side of your belly peels you open. And it is easier to roll open through your rib cage, but this isn't meant to be so much of a twist as it is a lateral posture. So the more the belly rolls back, the more we get that stretch on the side waist. 2 more exhales. Pushing through your feet, but softening your toes. And we'll take it down to the mat. Hands to floor, drop your right knee, pointing the toes away. Hands to left thigh, or inhale your arms overhead. Take it into your vinyasa, stepping back. All right, supine. To your back you go. Looking between the hands, take the weight forward, bend your knees to step or hop to a seated posture, and then roll all the way down onto your spine. So having your belt nearby can be very helpful for our next sequence. We'll start to stretch our legs out long upon the floor with our arms by our sides. So we'll start off with supine head to knee posture. Lifting your right leg up into the sky overhead. You have the choice of either grabbing hold of your big toe with your index and middle finger. If that's too far away, looping your belt around your foot. And if you don't have a belt available to you, you can always interlace your fingers beneath your calf or your hamstrings here. Just try to avoid the knee because we don't want the leg to bend too much. Eyes gazing upwards. If you're holding onto the big toe, place your left hand on your left thigh. Saturate your hamstring muscles at the back of your right thigh with your inhalations. If that's really hard to do, if you can't feel your breath moving in your leg, then it might be to your benefit to back off an inch or 2. And once you get into that sweet spot where everything feels more elastic, the connective tissue will respond more readily to your breath process. Last exhale, keep your toes soft as you pull the legs straight in. And then Parshva Hita. Parshva is side. So we'll straighten the right arm. With an exhale, open the leg out to the right side. Once it's dropped to whatever extent is working for you today, turn your gaze over your left shoulder, looking at your yoga mat. But keep that left hand on your left hip, pushing the hip into the floor to try and keep the pelvis as even as possible. So if you have the benefit of either grabbing your big toe or using a belt, try to push through the big toe mound toward the side wall, radiating through the inner margin of the foot to emphasize the inner thigh release. And keep your leg where it is, and as you exhale, bring your head to center. Inhale, lift that right leg up, bend your knee, and then turning the shin parallel to your chest for thread the needle, bring your left knee up to your right ankle. Right arm reaches between the legs as you interlace your fingers around your left hamstrings, your left shin, But if those two modifications aren't working, again, using the strap, loop it around the left leg and start to pull left knee in toward your shoulder. Okay, this posture is very, very similar to pigeon posture when we fold forward. And for those of us who have any history of knee injury will know that this is also a good modification for pigeon. So definitely want to bear that in mind as we will be practicing those variations of pigeon further on in our yin practice. This is always a good spot you can come to as an alternative. 3 more breathings. Bending the elbows out to the sides, sinking the hips so we're actively stretching. Now keep your legs how they are as you step your left foot down onto the floor, releasing with the hands. Okay, simplified twist. We're just going to take the legs from this orientation and drop them over the left side of the mat. Okay, you can place your left hand on your right knee to give a little pressure as you look over your right shoulder. Stage 2 twist. If the outer hips are fairly open, or if they would feel good with a deeper stretch, take your left hand and grab the outer edge of your right foot. Once you grab the right foot, extend that leg straight, and then begin to press your left leg straight so that it's eventually parallel to the long side of your mat. So essentially a revolved triangle just laying on our sides. Breathe from your right hip. Okay, all that connective tissue binding and feeling restrictive is going to cause you to typically compromise your breath. So you have to make the choice to send the inhalations into that resistance. Last 3. Maybe trying to simply straighten the legs more for 2. So we end the pose with an exhale. And then inhale back to center, bring both of your knees in toward your chest, and give yourself a gentle squeeze. Right leg long upon the mat, left leg stretching up into the sky. Grasping for the big toe or bounce. So your anchor in this posture is your right leg, the one that's resting on the earth. Now to anchor yourself, you should feel not only are you straightening that leg, but you're also turning the inner calf and the inner thigh toward the floor. And just a modest awareness in that right leg should make you feel more sensation on the left. 2 more exhalations. Parshlahita, so the arm straightens first, and then opening out to the side. Okay, if you do not have a strap, and we start to open out to the side, and your ability to hold the foot is becoming a bit more challenged, then go ahead and bend your left knee and just hook the inside of the thigh to open out. Don't know why that was so hard to say. Couple more breathings, pushing through the inner margin of the foot, through the big toe mound. We're using inhale to lift us back up to center. Bend your left knee, turn the shin parallel to your chest. And then once you've done so, bring the right leg up to meet. Okay, left arm between the legs. Interlacing your fingers around your hamstrings or your shin, and then shoulders down, hips down. The back of the neck is long. Okay, if your chin is lifting away from your chest, then maybe explore using a strap to help you hold on to that right leg instead. Okay, we'd always prefer to have a more neutral spine. I really like this pose in particular because it seems to me fairly easy to breathe directly into the sensation of stretch. That tugging, maybe that yielding feeling on the left hip. As you inhale, feel it expanding. And as you exhale, feel it shrinking. 3 more breaths. Last exhale. Now as you release with your hands, the right foot steps to the floor, but the legs remain as they are. Okay, opening your arms out to your sides, let your knees fall over the right side body, keeping both of the knees bent for that first stage twist, in which case your right hand is welcome to push down on your left knee. Stage 2, start to extend that left leg long as you catch the outer edge of the foot with your right hand, and extend the right leg long upon the mat to whatever extent feels gratifying. So as we reach out to grab for the left foot, try grabbing for the pinky toe side of the foot to help you get a little better control over the orientation of the foot and thereby the hip. The left hip is breathing, so starting the inhalations from the outside of the waist and then feeling that expansion climb up your spine. Last 3. Feeling the muscles surrounding the bones of the spinal column, slowly releasing. As you exhale, bring your head to center. As you inhale, lifting your knees, bend to both, reach around your shins, and give yourself a hug. Okay, let's take it into our vinyasa. So catch behind your hamstrings, rock back to your shoulders with an inhale, exhale up and over your feet to step back, either directly to downward dog or dropping your way into your flow. All right. We're going to stretch the right leg up into the sky now, pulling the hips away. Step up between your hands in a long lunge. Now, rising to fingertips, we're going to hop the back foot up to about the halfway point on your mat. So inhale, step it closer, pushing both heels down, straighten the legs. So for Parsvottanasana, you're going to want either hands on shin, earth, or taking 2 blocks beneath your palms. Pull both of your hips back as you lengthen your spine, lifting part way on an inhale. Exhale, now let the upper body melt. And although your hands are connected with something, be it block or floor, the weight of the posture should remain in your feet. Okay, we don't want to start leaning into our hands too much. So push down the bones of your right and left leg equally, conscious that both feet are standing into the mat with the same amount of effort and awareness. We do tend to neglect the back leg in a lot of these asymmetrical postures. So if you need a little extra attention, feel yourself turning the inner thigh of the left leg back and pushing the outer margin of the foot down. 2 more exhales. Placing a block beneath your left hand for revolving triangle, grab a hold of your right waist. Okay, lengthen your spine first, and then turning your belly to the right, gaze to the side wall or to the ceiling. Okay, feeling that releasing through the low back for 3, and back really. 2, and 1. Hands down. If you're using your blocks, bring them with you as you swing around to the left side. So we'll start with Parsvottanasana. You're going to have to wiggle your left foot to the left to make sure that your 2 heels are in line, and then steer the left hip back to get your pelvis square. Push through the feet to lengthen yourself out. As you begin to melt forward, keep the weight in the legs. Okay, your hands here do little more than keep your torso oriented so that it's parallel to the earth, and they help to keep your shoulders moving back into the hips and away from the neck. Thoughtful that you're not balancing with your toes. Try to relax those little digits. The bones of the legs and the bones of the feet pushing into the earth are enough. Last exhale. Straighten the arms to lengthen your spine. Right hand to block earth, left hand to hip or sky. Twisting your belly to the left side, look at the side wall, or eventually gazing up toward the ceiling. So if you imagine a line from your left hip to your sternum, that's the bone at the center of your chest, we want to take that line and we want to lengthen it. So move your heart away from your hip to straighten the spine. 3. Toes still soft for 2. Last exhale to twist. Take your hands to the floor, step straight back into your flow or downward dog, and yes, you are backwards, whatever that means. All right, so we're really coming to the end of our active or our yang focused practice. Lifting the left leg up into the sky with an inhale, step up between your hands in a long lunge, and then right away, drop your back knee, but keep the toes tucked. Half monkey. Walking your hands back, straighten the left leg, and as you exhale, begin to melt down into the left shin. Okay, the toes of the left foot point straight up into the sky, so again, we can evenly access the muscles running down the back of the hip. And hands can walk further and further forward to encourage your spine long as it melts into that leg. Every 2 more exhales, make sure your face is still totally serene. No tension in the jaw, the sinuses, or the eyes. Rocking forward into a lunge with an inhale, swing round to the right side for wide-legged forward fold, feet parallel. And with your hands shoulder width directly beneath you, straighten the arms. And then exhale, bend your elbows and melt down out of your hips. So you can passively hang here, especially if the hips are tight. If you're relatively open in this position, the hands can start walking back until the tips of your fingers are in the same line as the tips of your toes. Keep your elbows shoulder width and gently push them into the earth to guide your shoulder blades away from the skull. Last exhale, folding the heart between the knees. Straighten your arms, walk your hands back to the top of the mat. That'll be your right side lunging. Once you're facing over the right knee, drop your left leg, keep the toes tucked under. Half monkey, inhale, pull your hips back, melting to the right leg. Don't drop your hips down to the floor or your heel. If you sit down too quickly, you're going to lose a lot of the stretch on those hamstring muscles. Picturing the sensation. And once you've got that picture clear in your mind's eye, watch it change with every breath. One more long exhale. And at the end of that breath, rock forward, swing around to the left. One more time, wide-legged forward fold. So this time around, you can grab your ankles from the outside, or if you prefer, grasping the hold of the big toes, use your index and middle fingers, but make sure that the palms of your hands face center. Lengthening the spine, lift your knees, and with your exhale, lift your elbows and your shoulders as your spine melts into the earth. Now there's this point within the feet where if we roll the weight forward, we start to find it gets a little scary. We feel almost a little like we're going to fall over onto our backs. And it's right at that precipice that we're going to find the greatest amount of lengthening through the calf muscles and the backs of the legs. So challenge yourself. Bring it forward, but try to keep the toes soft for our last 2 exhales. Last out breath, crown reaching to earth. And then inhale, lengthening halfway up, hands beneath shoulders. Swing to the right, facing the top of your mat, and then make your way to downward dog. All right, so that is going to conclude the yang portion of our practice, and that was in fact our last flow. So now we are going to transition to seated, and of course we're going to want our props nearby. So looking forward, step or lightly hop to sit. And then once you've landed on your hips, go ahead and collect your large pillows, your folded towels, and your 2 blocks. So the first posture we're going to be practicing in this yin type fashion is a variation of bound angle, Baddha Konasana. In yin, they just give it the name butterfly. Now, whereas in our traditional yoga asana, we have our feet fairly close to the hips, in this yin asana, we're going to take the feet out very far away. So your feet go out so far that the heels may stay connected, but the big toe mounds are probably going to start releasing a little bit as the legs fall open from center. Now, if you have any history of issue with the knees, this would be a good time to take blocks or books and stack them up underneath the knees to really really regulate how much opening is going to occur within the hips. From there, we will place a blanket underneath our hips to elevate us slightly. And then either 1 or 2 pillows directly between the knees to create cushioning for the upper body as we fold forward. Okay. Now with a yin type posture, alignment does not need to be precise in the same way as our traditional yang poses. So whereas we would have all of these things such as lengthening the spine or keeping the inner margins of the feet connected, we can allow those to fall by the wayside today. Okay, the aim is to find a comfortable posture where you're getting the barest sensation, and then we're going to be holding for an extended period of time. We're talking about 3 minutes per posture, so the challenges become very different from what we experience in our yang practice. So once you're sure you have your prop set in a way that's going to keep you comfortable, and of course remember you can always lift your hips higher and higher and higher with more and more towels, we'll begin to slowly round forward over our cushions. Okay, if it's not comfortable for you to just drop your face straight down, you can of course turn your head to one side or the other, but you want to be thoughtful that you switch in between every posture so that you get an even stretching through the neck on both sides. So let your eyes close, let your awareness turn back inwardly, and notice the most prominent sensations, whatever they may be, because if we need to make any adjustments, we want to do so here and now. So adjusting the hips, untucking them for instance, adding extra cushioning under the knees as I mentioned before. Allow your breath to slip into a slower, calmer rhythm. And with your eyes closed, you will tend to encounter a greater degree of distraction. The mind will reach out for anything that it can find, whether it be sounds in the room around you or plans for the rest of your afternoon. And this really is the challenge within the yin practice. The physicality is not so much of an issue as our mental reactions to it. So just like everything else we do within the yoga practice, as you start to notice that monkey mind jumping from one tree branch to another, smile. Come back to your breath. Acknowledge what you're feeling and what's distracted you, but then return over and over again to that tidal rhythm, rising and falling within your body. Every exhalation creates an opportunity, a possibility to let go of something more, be it actual physical effort, or maybe just some idea or some impression that you're holding on to. And don't just breathe, but allow that breath to draw you further and further into the experience of your body. Softening the back of your neck, the backs of your eyes, softening the roof of your mouth. Just about 1 minute remaining. That's about 13 breaths or so. Much in the same way as we transition into back bends, when we're going to be lifting out of a lot of these yin postures, we don't want to just pop up straight as can be, and we don't want to lift ourselves up with our heads. Instead, we're going to do a lot more rounding, walking the hands in to help us build our way up. So if your hands are draped out in front of you in this particular pose, maybe you'd benefit to bend your elbows out to the sides, bringing the hands in close, either in front of your shins or walking them back behind your knees. Okay, pushing in your palms a little, keep your head heavy, and start to ever so slowly round your way up to tall. Once you've lifted to tall, go ahead and move your pillows out to the sides and right. Use your hands to close your legs up, slowly stretch them forward, and then windshield wiper your feet from side to side. Now, the traditional counter pose is, of course, wide-legged. So we're going to open our legs out to about 90 or 120 degrees. Go ahead and swing and face the camera. While still keeping that extra cushioning beneath our hips, if that, of course, is to your benefit here. So Amber's inner hamstrings and inner thighs are open enough for her to comfortably extend her legs out straight. But before we even imagine that this is a possibility, let's all start out with our knees well bent until the soles of your feet are flat upon the floor. Now with this modification, as this will help to accommodate the inner thighs, by bending the knees in a lot, it's going to tend to rock the pelvis back. So if you are bending your knees and you have the feet flat on the floor, lean as far forward as you can, untuck your right hip, and then untuck your left hip, like do it physically, untuck. Okay, this way we can tilt the pelvis forward a little more. From there then, you'll be able to stack up your pillows, blankets, whatever you have beneath you, allowing the torso to drop down. Now, if that's totally comfortable for you, you're not really feeling much of anything, you can start to scoot your heels a little further away, bit by bit, until you get, again, the barest sensation. We just want to feel the tiniest bit of something within the inseams of the legs or the low back and outer hips. And then once you've found that little bit of something, let gravity take over. In a yin posture, you are not trying to get further into the pose. You're not trying to open your hips or to soften and melt the spine. Instead, you're really just trying to get out of your own way, to let go of everything and let the pose happen. And the mind falls into reaction, the mind wants to go somewhere, the mind wants to feel something, and all this just needs to be cast aside. And the pose will be whatever it is. As you reside in this place of stillness, observe yourself. It is a much more mental practice. You're never going to be able to make your mind shut off. You're never going to be able to just wish it quiet and then it'll happen. But by learning to pay attention to what the mind does, learning to listen to yourself, all those distractions lose a lot of their energy, a lot of their power. Even working to maintain that perfect equilibrium between the inhale and exhale is not as necessary now. This way, every single posture becomes more and more of a meditation. Things become uncomfortable, if the desire to fidget, to wiggle starts to surface, before you just succumb to it, notice it first, and then ask yourself if you really need to. Do you have to wiggle that toe? Do you have to fidget that hip? Or, if you just continue to breathe and you're patient for long enough, can you see how that sensation changes of its own accord? We're about halfway there on this pose. And of course, as we maintain, the connective tissue will start to loosen. So if you are finding that there is some more space available to you, you can scoot your pillows a little further away. Maybe you can peel back one of those pillows, dropping down a bit lower. As we still have about, say, another 90 seconds for this asana. hands to drop down onto the earth, the arms to melt sloppily into the floor. Take a breath. Turn the palms to face down, head still heavy, and then pushing straight through the arms, round your spine up. Moving your pillows out of the way. Catch the knees from the inside, give them a bend if they're not bent already. Walk your feet together, send them straight out in front of you, and then windshield wiper your feet side to side. Go ahead and swing 90 degrees. So setting up now for, in Yin, what we call caterpillar. In our traditional yoga practice, this would be Paschimottanasana. Now with this posture, certainly by having your hips propped up on a blanket, we're going to find it's easier to keep the spine tall. But some of us do know right from the outset that in this pose, it's going to be to your benefit to have your knees bent. And with this particular modified form of the practice, this Yin practice that we're doing, if you typically bend your knees in this pose, I'd like you to put twice as much cushioning underneath your hips. So maybe 3 bath towels or so to really elevate the hips, making it a little more comfortable for you to straighten the knees out. But of course, by all means, if you're feeling any discomfort at the backs of your knees, bend those legs more. And from here now, we'll take 1 or 2 pillows up onto the thighs. Now for Paschimottanasana, the feet would be flexed, the feet connected, toes into the sky. But now that it's Yin, we're just going to let the feet relax. Maybe they fall open a little bit, maybe not. But just allow the legs to settle into whatever position feels comfortable and natural. And as you're ready, start to walk your hands forward, dropping the torso down over your bolsters or your pillows, and then turning your head to one side. Now check in with the floor of your hips and the space specifically between your 2 thigh bones. Okay, if you feel kind of congested in the hips, like you're cramped in a small space, then you can grab a hold of your left hip, roll it out to the left, and then likewise grab a hold of the right hip, roll it out to the right, widening the flesh of the hips in order to give you more space to release through the low back. Gravity does the work for you. The eyes softly shut and gaze into the backs of the lids. So in the beginning, it may be challenging enough for you to simply observe the breath. This is an inhale, this is an exhale, etc. But in time, as your awareness of the body and its sensations develop, you should fine-tune your attention to the breathing. Where does the inhale start? Where does it move? What shape does it take? You try to feel every muscle, tendon, and ligament that the breath encounters. Every subtle or obvious difference from one side to the other. Okay, the mind is quick to leap to a place where it considers itself bored, and then from boredom, disinterested. But this is just because you're not paying enough attention. There's so much to just this inhale. So try your best to observe every subtle and every gross aspect to the breath, to the body, and then eventually to the mind. As always, there should be no pain, no sharp, electric, or pointed sensations, in particular within the joints of the body. Whenever you receive these pain signals, work back, assuming a more modified variation of your pose. For those of us that are a little more open, you may be able to peel back some of those layers, removing 1 pillow, 1 bath towel, giving yourself the space to adapt and adjust as things change within you. halfway there. Any little adjustments to maybe take you a little further are welcome. But if you get that nagging to shift or to change the pose because something feels uncomfortable, remember to just take at least a moment or two before you succumb to that reaction. To ask yourself, do I really need to move? You may at this point be able to drop your arms sloppily to the earth if you don't have too many pillows cushioning you. This will have the added benefit of releasing the shoulders across the upper back. Keeping your head super heavy, bring the palms of the hands to the earth. And with a little push through the straightened arms, round your spine up. You're taking both pillows off to the right side and then windshield wipering your feet from side to side. Good. The next yin sequence is going to take us through pigeon and a modified forward fold variation of pigeon. So firstly, as we're going to be coming into the upright form of this traditional pose, if you have any knee issues with pigeon, instead of practicing pigeon proper, I would like you to practice a kneeling lunge with a cushion beneath your left knee. Okay, this will make you much more comfortable for the extended duration of time that we will be holding the pose. For the rest of us that are going to be coming into pigeon, go ahead and cross your shins, roll over your feet, moving onto your shins at the top of the mat. And we're going to separate our two blocks or stacks of books just about in line with our knees, but open very wide. We'll say about as wide as the mat itself. From there, we'll go ahead and swing both of our heels off to the left-hand side. Dropping down into your right hip for a moment, roll forward, plant your palms on the floor, and then step your left leg straight back as if you were in a lifted lunge. So your right hip will be off of the floor, your left knee off of the floor. Okay, slide your pillow or your cushion underneath your hips so that it is actually over top of your right foot a little bit, and then let your hips soften back down into that bolster. So scoot your hips back as the right knee widens to the right slightly, just a bit outside of your hip. And then get your blocks pulled into position in line with that right knee. So hands to your blocks, lifting your torso up tall. So there's a little more strength in this pose as we have to engage the arms to keep us upright. The shoulders soften and sink away. The neck relaxes as the eyes gaze out to one point in the distance. So for the majority of us, we're going to be feeling that stretching and lengthening on the front of the left hip, which is why a kneeling lunge is a good modification here, as we're going to access that same release through the iliopsoas muscle. As you push into your hands, keep the heart open and the shoulders back. Keep the face serene. Okay, if you're holding tension in your face, you are holding tension elsewhere in your body. But on the other side of the coin, if you can relax your face, the rest of the body will tend to follow suit. And the tailbone is working to gently tuck, but again, very limited activity. For the most part, let gravity draw your hips into the earth as your upper body simply remains fixed in space through the action of your arms. I like to think in this posture of the floor of the pelvis, directly between the thigh bones, lifting its way up toward the heart. Okay, not constricting or contracting, just calmly rising. We're about halfway there, and if you're not typically holding this posture in the upright position, you're probably longing for its end. Just acknowledge that. Smile. As long as there's no pain, breathe through. So from our upright pigeon, we're gonna bring that extra cushion around directly before us. And in fact, 1 or 2 pillows could be helpful, or you could just bunch your pillow up. And give yourself one more inhale to lift just a little higher, and then slowly begin melting forward, draping your torso down over that new bolster or cushion you established for yourself. And now we have that switch, the stretch from the left hip, shifting over into the back of the right. But it should be a comfortable releasing into the earth. Okay, if the sensation is already quite intense, if you really feel like you're stretching, then it's way too much. Okay, put more cushioning under the hips and more cushioning under the torso to lift you further away from the floor until we find that barest sensation. And of course, if this does not work for the knee, remember the modification mentioned earlier, laying on the back and thread the needle with the right ankle crossed over the left knee to modify. Now in this particular pose, as we have folded forward, you may find that turning your chin to the right elicits more of a comfortable release through the hips. But there is no particular way you need to turn your head. For a lot of us, the stillness of a yin practice is most certainly the greatest challenge, especially if we do tend to practice very dynamic styles of yoga where we're flowing a lot. And this is one of the traps of the yoga practice. Those of us that do tend to be a little more type A, a little more physically active, we really like those vinyasa practices. We want to jump back and forth from pose to pose. We want to gracefully sweep through our arms and float back. But we would also benefit, undoubtedly, from some stillness. Whereas on the other hand, those of us that really like bolstered practices, restorative yoga, yin yoga, oftentimes we can get kind of stuck and stagnant just doing what feels comfortable. And in those cases, doing something a little more dynamic and a little more rigorous is what's needed. So it's important to assess what it is that you just naturally vacillate towards. And then always ask yourself why. Do I do that because it's easy? Because it's natural? And what happens when I get into those uncomfortable spots, those more challenging practices? And do I really find the possibility for greater growth there? Just a little bit longer here in our sleeping swan. Now, the next asana we'll find ourselves in is a variation of Gomukhasana, or head of the cow pose. Now, Amber is going to demonstrate the transition out into straightened legs. I will demonstrate the more advanced variation where you'll be coming directly into head of the cow pose from your current position. Remember, firstly, you're not lifting with your head. Let that head remain heavy. Draw the hands back in beneath your shoulders and begin to push your arms straight, lifting your torso up to tall. Okay, from here now, rolling into your right hip, remain on your cushion. Bring your left leg all the way up and around, either kicking both legs straight out in front of you or simply crossing the left knee over top of the right. Now, if you are straightening both legs out before you, you're going to step the left foot over top of the right knee as if doing a spinal twist, and then allow the knee to fall open to the side. Grab your left ankle and pull it back toward the outside of your right hip. Okay, foot resting on the floor so the thighs or knees stack directly down. Right. If you're stacking up both knees, try to gently squish them together so they end up in one line, while both feet are just marginally outside of the waistline. So if you transition and you're already sitting on your cushion, you should still be sitting on your cushion. But if this is creating any discomfort in your knees, please put more cushions beneath you. Lift those hips up quite a bit higher. You can take your 2 blocks and place them out before you to create a support for your forearms. If you have one leg straight, alternatively, you can go ahead and take your pillow and place your pillow over top of your thighs to create some cushioning for yourself. So as you're ready, either simply walking the hands forward as you drop your gaze, lowering your forearms to your blocks as you mount, or just simply draping yourself over your pillow or your thighs. And let the eyes softly shut and look into the backs of your eyelids. So just because you close your eyes, it doesn't mean that you're not seeing. And the eyes are still functioning. They're just perceiving darkness. If you're conscious of that, you get a little more of a hold over that particular sense door. And our eyes happen to be the most direct conduit to our mind. If you can softly gaze into the darkness behind your lids and try to keep that soft gaze relatively steady, it will help you to focus, to clear out some of the distractions, and to enhance your connection to your body, your breath. So we are counterposing pigeon and swan by releasing the opposite hip, the left hip now. On the side, you may find some pressure or some kind of squishy discomfort around the stomach, especially if you had a meal recently. So just like every other discomfort in the practice, try not to get too caught up in it, but do remain aware. Breathe into and around the sensation to help you visualize it. And every time your mind gives it a label or a name, calling it one thing or the other, just smile. Know that this is what the mind does. And then make the choice to come back to visualizing, feeling that sensation, instead of giving it a name. Only a few more breaths here. If there's anything that you can let go of, this is the time now. Pressing your hands into the mat with an inhale, begin to push the arms straight, round up. If you've got your blocks or your cushions in front of you, move them off to the side, and then carefully undo both of your legs, straightening them out before you. Windshield wiper feet side to side. Okay, cross your shins, roll over to kneel, and then once you've done so, scoot your bolster out of the way. Okay, having your 2 blocks set about the width of the mat on either side in line with your knees. Shift your feet to the right side, swinging them out slightly. Stretch your right leg back in somewhat of a lifted lunge. So as the right leg goes back, tuck the toes, lift your hips, and then slide your cushion underneath you so that the bolster or pillows are just laying over top of your left heel. So check the hips. We want to be relatively square at the top of the mat, and the left knee should be just outside of the left hip slightly. Scoot your blocks in. And then maintaining your upright asana. So one-legged king of pigeons, gazing out into the distance as you breathe open the front of your right hip. In a yang practice, we would be activating the inner belly, lifting the pelvic floor, pulling the floating ribs in, converging the shoulders, lots and lots of activity. Here now instead, just keep the arms stable to maintain that upright pose. And let those hips release and melt with every breath. Notice when distractions surface. Notice when your mind starts making excuses, reasons to bail out. You know the next pose that's coming, so why not just escape for a little while? I can't see it, I don't know what you're doing. But it's only yourself that you cheat. And when you hit those sweet spots where things get uncomfortable and your mind starts to create those excuses to escape, that is where you really find the work of the practice. That is the opportunity to smile and to choose to do something differently than your natural inclination. Just about 1 more minute remaining. Softening hips, eyes, softening the tongue and the mouth. And as we prepare for the variation, the forward fold, we're going to go ahead and grab that extra pillow or cushion and draw it forward in between the blocks. And moving blocks out of the way, with your exhale, begin slowly folding forward to drape your torso over your pillow. Okay, so the rib cage should come down just inside of the thigh on the left leg. Okay, this way the hips remain nice and square in space. Okay, no pressure or discomfort upon the left knee. If there is, bolster the hips up even higher, or remember that you can always roll onto your back and practice thread the needle as modification. So meditation is nothing more than being connected to a thing, something. For us here now, that thing is the breath. Ride those waves. Building insights through your awareness. Should be fully heavy, falling into your bolster. The back of the heart sinking with every exhalation beneath the weight of gravity. Just about 1 minute remaining. Smiling at yourself on the inside as you let go. With the head super heavy, start to walk the hands back in beneath your shoulders, and with an inhale, build your way up slowly. Moving your blocks and that pillow directly before you out to the side. Lean the weight off into your left hip. Bring the back leg all the way around to either straighten both legs or simply cross right knee directly over top. And once the legs are straight, if you are choosing to do so, step your right foot over top of the left leg, drop the knee open, and pull that left heel to the outside of your waist for a modified Gomukhasana. Blocks can be set before you for your forearms, or you can drop to the earth, maybe placing that pillow beneath your torso in order to drape the upper body more comfortably into the pose. Cushioning the hips up higher and higher will help if the knees are a little bit of an issue in these types of poses. If you are listing to one side or the other, just try to gently reorient yourself so the two hips are relatively equal. But if that requires a great deal of effort, then let it go. It's more important to soften, to release, than it is to align the structure of the pose in this case. The hands back in, lifting the torso up, move your top cushion out of the way, stretch the right leg out long, windshield wiper the feet side to side. Okay, if you're sitting on a pillow or a folded up bath towel, go ahead and move that out of the way as well, so you're now on the floor. And then rolling down onto your back, hug your knees in close to your chest. So we'll first start by windshield wipering the knees, which is different than a spinal twist. So drop your feet down to the floor. So the soles of the feet are flat and the knees are bent, but open your feet out so that they are considerably wider than your hips. Aim for like the outer edges of your yoga mat. Drop your arms open at your sides, palms facing upwards, and then keeping your feet to the mat's width, just simply drop both of your knees over the left side of the mat so your right knee probably falls close to your left heel. Breathe into the outside of the right hip and the belly. And then inhale, draw both of those knees back up to center. With your exhale, drop to the other side. Inhalation, knees to center. And then 2 more times, fluidly moving from one side to the other. Go slow. And savor that release through the outer hip each time. One more cycle. Bringing the knees back in, draw them toward the chest, reach around and hug. And then we'll close off with a spinal twist. So keeping the knees up toward the heart. Open your arms out wide at shoulder height. Drop both of your knees over to your left side as you gaze over your right shoulder. Okay, the arms open fully and the palms lifted toward the ceiling. Okay, if your palms are facing down toward the floor, you're going to collapse the front of the chest. The palms are upwards. On the other hand, you're going to more fully open through the ribs. And relax your legs completely. Let the hips sink and fall. Exhale, bring your head to center. Inhale, lift your knees, hug around the shins. And then opposite side, arms open wide, knees falling right. And turn your gaze over your left shoulder and breathe through the hip, through the belly. your exhale, bring the chin back in. With your inhale, lift your knees, reach around one last time, give yourself a squeeze. And then start to stretch your way out into final Shavasana. So the feet should be wider than your hips, and then toes just fall out from center. And adjust your hips if you need to. And from there then, turn the palms of your hands into an upward facing position. Okay, shoulders walk their way down into the hips, a little bit away from the ears. And the last overt adjustment should be a little tuck of your chin to lengthen the back of your neck. Close your eyes, soften your sinuses, allowing the nostrils to open fully so the breath can move easily. Unclench your teeth. Relax your tongue and the roof of your mouth. And then really open up your ears super wide. So sounds draw in and then back out without any kind of resistance or obstruction. And so we really worked through two very differing styles of practice today. So as you start to sink and settle into the depths of your final relaxation, also endeavor to notice what you're feeling. Not just on the physical level, not just the muscles, the bones, the tendons and ligaments, but also energetically. Do you feel very calm or very stimulated? Do you feel very focused or very distracted? And how has that changed or shifted since we first began? And with this self-questioning and this investigation comes insight. And through insight, growth. So look into yourself. Appreciate the effect of the practice. And really revel in this opportunity to get back in touch with yourself. Breath after breath. reaching your legs together. Stretch your arms up over your head. With an inhalation, stretch yourself out from end to end, and then soften. Bring your knees in toward your chest, reach around, give yourself a little hug. And with a roll to your side, push on up to a comfortable seated posture. So we want to stack the spine up tall, balanced equally upon the hips. Take the hands together at the center of your heart and let your head fall forward just slightly as the eyes shut. Okay, looking within, take this moment to really feel that sensation you associate with gratitude and offer it to yourself, feeling thankful for your practice today. And then try to spread yourself outwardly as much as possible, feeling grateful for your friends, your family, your acquaintances, and even those people in your life that antagonize you. Feeling gratitude for their presence and for the way they all uniquely help you grow. As always, we are honored that you would share your practices with us. Namaste.